We've got Mike Jaco, 24-year Navy SEAL, 10 years CIA, operations all over the world. And actually, he went against the grain, went against these institutions because he saw where they were headed, what they were doing. Josh Reid, same thing, ex-military. I call him my personal Encyclopedia Brown. He knows things that I can't even imagine how he finds this information. And I heard recently he was going to be a new replacement for Awana Savin when he retires. And that tells you a whole lot about Josh Reid. So, ladies and gentlemen, here they are. Mike Jaco, Josh Reid. Guys, thanks for taking the time tonight on a Friday night to give the audience what they're excited about, looking for. Welcome again here to our roundtable, the Three Amigos. We have a replacement face, but it's becoming a commonplace now with Josh Reid here. Thanks, guys. Josh, what's happening in the world? What are the most exciting things happening in the battle for Earth today?
Battle for Earth or Battlefield Earth, I think, is a great topic for tonight. There's a lot of things happening in the context of the prerequisites being laid out for accountability, for arrest, for all of this stuff to happen. We see this kind of inching its way into the scene. But that's not really the things that I'm paying attention to right now. We have Iran, which obviously Trump came out and said there's a deal, and then Iran's like, no. And now Trump is getting ready to bomb the crap out of Iran again. I think that we need to set that stuff aside for a minute because there's something that I think is bigger on the table here. And, I've been following the UFO, the UAP stuff for a little while. And, for a long while. I've been involved in this stuff for, 2 decades now. And what I'm seeing is quite interesting. So you have Tim Burchett that's out there saying, hey, the deep state's getting involved. This is why you're seeing a bunch of nothing burgers coming from the DOD. And I disagree. I had Tim Burchett on my show about a month ago, right?
Saw that.
And I disagree with that assessment because when you start to look at the UFO secrecy that has happened over the last 80 years, there's a few different things that tend to make sense. And I know there's people out there that have been whistleblowers and talked about, jet black craft that hover and they're involved in taking migrants up. And we're hearing about all of this. Funny thing is, I wrote an article before anybody ever was talking about that stuff about a year and a half ago. Now, there are aspects of all of this stuff, but there's something that I kind of want to get out of my head tonight for everybody because there's something coming. And I don't know if that means literal or legitimately, but there's something coming. And I think that we all need to start wrapping our head around what this might be. This last week, we started hearing rumblings. Eric Weinstein, Dr. Eric Weinstein, who was a UFO denier for the longest time, is now saying, I'm 100% a believer. You have Neil deGrasse Tyson saying, I'm a believer. You have Michio Kaku going on Fox News saying, I'm a believer. And they're saying, just from the evidence of the grainy videos that are coming out from the DOD, they're believers. But Eric Weinstein said something very, very interesting. He said that I was actually contacted by the White House communication team, me and other scientists, on what was the right way to go about on disclosure, telling people that we are not alone in the universe. And then you had just 2 weeks ago, the pastors and the priests that were contacted by the White House communication office doing the same thing. Prepare your people for UFO extraterrestrial disclosure. And then just recently, Jeremy Corbell, people know he's kind of involved in a lot of this with a lot of the congressional hearings. He came out and said that he was contacted by the same White House team. So in other words, we're getting the White House that is saying that, like, no matter what, we are moving forth with this level of disclosure. And so one of the things that I wanted to do, I want to read this post that I wrote the other day because this is what we're seeing with the levels of disclosure. And I think it's really important to differentiate between what we're seeing right now. And then I'm going to get into the ideas of what I think is going to happen, of what's going to come. Because everything that we're seeing right now, the build up to artificial intelligence, moving to ASI, the hidden war between the U.S., China, the globalists, the old guard, all of this is about this one topic. Whether people can put that together or not, it's all about this one topic. When Donald Trump is talking about a golden age, when he's talking about the Great Awakening, when he's talking about a revolution in technology, this is primarily what he's talking about. Now, a little background. 80 years there's been this secrecy surrounding this whole community. Whether it's a secret space force or what, the one thing is evident that the high level of this technology has been kind of branched off to various different factions. And we know that the white hats, the good guys, the patriots, have had control of this for the latter half of the last 80 years. That what we would consider to be the deep state, the cabal, these factions have only more recently got involved in this technology. I was talking to a general, 4-star general. I'll just put that. I'm not going to put the guy's name out there. And we were talking about this type of disclosure. And I said, one of the main reasons I look at the secrecy behind all of this is simply because you can't allow the Obamas, the Clintons, the deep staters, and the globalists to get access to this technology. And he started grinning, and he goes, let me tell you something. And he went on to say that we've held a lot of this technology for the longest time away from these people. And the massive secrecy has been primarily for that. But then we're hearing other rumblings this week that, hey, the secrecy wasn't about keeping it away from humanity. It was about keeping it away from the nefarious ETs or interdimensionals that are abducting our people and doing various different evil things on our planet because we didn't want them to know that we're becoming technologically advanced. So there's multiple parallels to understand here. Now, we're watching Tier 1 disclosure right now. What is Tier 1? Agency reports filed by people who have no idea what they were observing. Censored data and reports of anomalous phenomena, historical documents describing witness observation and anomalous phenomena. The trend, it's all observational data. If something is there, we don't know what it is. That is Tier 1. Tier 2 disclosure, this is the next level. We have 10,000 new documents that are going to come out over the course of the next few weeks. These are internal assessments behind closed doors. Notice that we're not seeing this. We're not getting the generals or the intelligence community trying to rationalize what these things are. We're just getting the observationals right now. But this is going to be programs analyzing performance characteristics, propulsion signatures, transmedium travel, radar anomalies, nuclear correlations, biological effects, and intelligence evaluations. Not we saw something, but we have reason to believe the phenomena represents technology and intelligence beyond conventional explanation. Then you have Tier 3 disclosure, and that is the meat and the potatoes. That is the revealing of this technology. Now, I got it from really, really good sources that there is going to be... So what Donald Trump is doing right now is executive reauthorization. So all of these programs exist through various different chains of through the DoD, through compartmentalization within private companies and contractors, but still under DoD authority. So DoD does the hiring, DoD does the security clearances, and they still have primary authority over this. They hide them within these corporations to basically ensure that this doesn't get out. Now, during the Obama administration, we know Clinton sent 38 SAP emails, Special Access Program emails, to a Chinese server, and that China got access to them. What was in them? That was the professors and the universities that were getting grants because they were, under the Obama administration, they were making a move to pull some of these SAP programs out of these black budget programs and put them into the universities to get them out there to universities that they controlled, Harvard, Stanford, Yale, MIT, so forth, to get them out there so they could begin developing this technology commercially and have their people in control of it, as well as China begin developing this technology and learn the secrets that we learned. Now, this is kind of around the time frame, early 2000s to the late 2000s, of when the deep state really got access to this type of technology. So they're a little bit behind the curve. And we know that one of the things they're doing is they're going out there and they're abducting these migrants that are flowing over the border, and they're taking migrant children. They're taking migrants that have psychic abilities. There's something to do with third world country people and the lack of technology that increases the psychic ability within people. And one of the interesting parts about all of this is this technology seems to be consciously actuated, as in your consciousness is what drives this level of technology. And I always found that fascinating because that's something that we've been saying for well over a decade when I first found all of this out and started talking to people about this. Now, why is the Trump administration going through executive reauthorization of this technology? Why now? Why specifically now? Well, we can look at the Genesis mission in AI, that we finally have the capabilities to compute the physics and the dynamics of this. AI brings about one aspect of it, quantum computing another aspect of it. The amount of processing that these things have to do, just these small little drones, the amount of computational power within them is far greater than any supercomputer we currently have on this planet. So we can reverse engineer the technology, but we never had the vast computational power to go out there and run these things. So that's being present right now. But from what I'm gathering, is that between 2027 and 2028, something's going to happen. I want to say blue beam or a fake alien invasion or anything like that. I think it's the real deal. I think that there's something coming. I think that there's something coming to this planet, and Trump is trying to prepare the world for whatever it is. And I think that the deep state, the globalists, they knew this, and they were preparing the war for their overseers to come back. And Trump is like, no, we got the technology. We're going to fight it for whatever it is. This is the indication that I'm kind of getting, is that there's something dark about all of this, and there's a rush to get this technology into the hands of people and innovate as fast as possible.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And, this has been going on for thousands of years, where humanity advances and it gets knocked back down. So this time we're going to be able to, advance. I think we are. If we look at the ancient temples of Dendara, they have basically these carvings, looks like aliens that are carved in there. And we see in other Abydos, there's looks like blimps and tanks and helicopters carved in the stone. Some of these have been we haven't seen them for thousands of years, and then they unearthed it and saw it. So it's not like something recent where somebody got in there and carved this stuff. Mm-hmm. So we've been dealing with this for a long time. The Majestic 12, basically, they came to Eisenhower and said, when they had that crash where, we had these, ancient, or not ancient, but alien technologies, they came to Eisenhower and they're like, hey, we're going to give you this, all you have to do is give us like 300,000, people, like Josh is talking about now. They keep seizing people. Mm-hmm. And he's like, no, we're not going to do that. But there were this industrial group, 12 Majestic 12 corporations, which said, we'll do it. And so behind the scenes, outside of the realm of the military, the real military, and Eisenhower, they started to work with these alien types and all the technology that they got from them. Same thing happened with the Nazis. So Nazis were dealing with these guys, these negative ETs, and eventually it got, Eisenhower and the white hats, if you will, got word of this, and they started to develop very rapidly their own technology, and so we're to the point now where we have a higher, more efficient, more impactful level of technology than they do, and so they're scrambling, trying to stop us out. It's not going to happen. So yeah, I agree with Josh. We're at Iran. That's a nothing burger compared to what's going on with the technologies that we're seeing that we're about to really come out. So directed energy weapons, we're seeing directed energy weapon use all across America and the world. This is the bad guys using that. That's getting shut down, and then some of the technologies, the HARP technologies, creating storms. We didn't have any hurricanes last year. So, things are moving in the right direction, but still we're going to have these guys trying, pull some fast ones, but I don't think they're going to be successful. Maybe a little bit here and there. We have, some serious problems with the Muslim population, throughout the United States that we need to clean up. That's been a problem. I've dealt with this for most of my career, at least 30 of my 35 years of working in the SEAL teams at the highest levels and the CIA at the highest levels. The negative Muslim type are a big threat to humanity, and they're in bed with the Democrats here in the United States. So this is something that has to be, rectified. And President Trump is fighting this war on all of these levels, all at once. He's not the only one. We have, groups all around the world that are doing the same thing. So a massive movement to take down this deep state that's been entrenched for thousands of years. This is monumental. It's a monumental time in U.S. history and for the world. So, Josh is right on. There's a bigger thing that's going on right now, and we may see some fireworks before we see things get any better. Will President Trump hit this weekend? Who knows? In Iran, it seems to be on the cusp, but maybe he'll just extend it out a little bit because we're starving that group out. Every day that goes by, they aren't making money. People are quitting. Their military, their law enforcement not showing up. So it's starting to really, have an impact. But it's also having an impact on the people of Iran. So they'll sacrifice the people all day long, forever, to stay in power. So I don't know how we go. I've said that we have to hammer them out because I've been part of that my whole career, where we went after these guys and eliminated them. So we're at the heart of this now, because I was always like, why don't we just go take out Iran? They're the ones that are causing all these problems all over the Middle East. Now we're there. So this is a very good time.
Well, I can tell you my view has been that they've in the last probably 15, 20 years, they've actually started soft disclosure of aliens here on the planet. I've said this many times. All you got to do is watch a Democratic National Convention on TV and watch the camera sweep the crowd. It looks like the bar scene in Star Wars. Like, Jesus, where do they find these things? These are definitely off-planet freaks, 3 heads, and all kinds of crazy shit. But that, to me, has always been soft disclosure. The interesting thing about laying the groundwork for this is that you have to prepare the psychology of people, and I've learned years ago, about a decade ago, you got the alliance powers and the cabal powers. The same war's been going on off planet as it has here on the planet as well, and it seemed like the alliance was on the brink there for probably in the last 8 to 10 years, but they got the upper hand now, and they've been seizing all these off-planet assets. And that's things that people haven't heard anything about this or thinking, what are you talking about, off-planet assets? Yeah, there's quadrillions of dollars of infrastructure built off-planet. And, talk about us becoming an interstellar race. We've been an interstellar race for quite some time, just not all of us. It's just those powers that have control of those technologies. But what I find interesting is that, and I said this as soon as Trump, and in my opinion, the first step toward disclosure was when Trump announced Space Force. Because the day he said that, I said, here we go. Because you have these technologies that are so advanced that if humanity finds out that, as we said before, Mikey and I have talked about this, you have anti-gravitic sonic healing technologies, zero-point energy, all these technologies that have been around forever. And people would learn that, and they would just get so pissed. And because in the medical side and the healing side, we've lost a lot of wonderful people on the planet, family members, husbands, wives, kids, from this murder machine called Big Pharma. And if this stuff existed, you would see a breakdown, total chaos, breakdown of social services, people rioting, just going crazy. And so how do you introduce these level of technologies that are now going to be dropped on humanity? I guess the two competing viewpoints is the on-planet alliance wants a very slow disclosure over 20 to 50 years, which started about 15 years ago. The off-planet alliance wants to drop it right on the heads of humanity because they feel they can handle it. Guys down here is like, no way. I was a proponent of like, hey, drop it all on our heads. We will figure it out. Because who wants to wait 20 to 50 years? And I don't believe that anymore. I think this slow rollout is what we can accept and understand, so we don't have this breakdown. But on top of that, how do you bring it to the consciousness of humanity? Well, as soon as Trump announced Space Force, I said, there you go. That is their umbrella that they can start introducing this infrastructure to humanity that's going to change everything. And how are we going to react? What are people going to say? All of a sudden, we build spacecraft or like aircraft carriers like Captain America, 6 miles long, massive, and comes up out of a canyon. You're like, oh my God, look at that thing. Yeah, that actually exists. How do you disclose that? Well, people are going to say, holy crap, look at what Space Force built. To be cheering, yeah, that's awesome, as opposed to, what, these bastards have kept this from us for all this time, and we've had this chaos on the planet. So the bomb that dropped for me on this, it blew me away. It was Jesse Waters. You guys saw the segment, like,
yep.
Holy shit. He's coming out and saying, look, there's 4 different races of extraterrestrials. You got Nordics, you got Greys, you've got the the arachnids or whatever you call them, the ant people, and you've got the Draco reptilians, whatever you call them. I mean, think about dropping that on something as mainstream as Fox News. I was like, holy shit! Talk about just ripping the brakes off the car and just hitting the gas. Now, most people you would think would be like, what? What are these talking? These guys are crazy, right? But I didn't see any of that reaction. People are thinking, holy, my God, it's real. They really are aliens. I thought that was a very positive indicator that humanity, at this point in time, I believe is prepared for the big one to be dropped on top of us. And I've said this for years now. And again, it sounds like I'm always attacking religion. It's not religion I'm attacking. It's the dogmatic thinking where we were pulled off the playing field. Christ tried to help us understand this is the power you all have. This is what they stole from you. And how I explain, the quantum physical realm of our Creator, that's been wiped off the playing field for all of us humans. And that's Christ is trying to say it. Look, these works you will do, and even greater than I. Religion has had this grip on humanity and kept us enslaved, sitting back waiting for our Savior to come and clean the planet up. And I said on the biggest stages in the country, but on religion's the worst single thing that has ever happened to humanity. In the case where we're taught in the Bible, just if somebody strikes you, turn the other cheek. Well, I just put out a picture today on Telegram showing Christ busting some asses and tables and throwing people out. That's not turning the other cheek. That's coming in like a warrior. That's not a sheep. That's a lion, and kicking some serious ass. And you guys have seen this. It's frustrated me that we need humanity to stand up and say we are done with this bullshit. Everything that they're doing to strip us to the bone of our rightful experience here, and all we have to do is stand up. We don't have to fight. I've said for years, we outnumber these bastards by the billions, but we are programmed through religion to sit back and just accept it, and somebody's going to save us. I've believed that all through my Christian life when I became a born-again Christian at 14 and 2 decades of that. But at this point in time, I've come to realize, we're the one you've been waiting. You're the one you've been waiting for. They're waiting. The military is waiting for us. The non-terrestrial intelligence, the benevolent intelligence, are waiting for us. When our wake up's different than what they think. Our wake up is that the depravity that's happening on the planet is at the behest of the world powers and the leaders of every country. Theirs is to wake up, man. How can they not see their own power, what they can actually do, this incredible human species? So for me, however it plays out, I think you're right, Josh. When you drop something like that on Fox News and brings up the mantids, like ant-faced people that are conscious humans of high intelligence, like we are, they just, have had DNA fusions of whatever creatures they've created. And, what these guys have shared with me, we're the direct result of 22 separate genetic experiments over the course of time to perfect whatever, and the human species comes to this place. People say, no, wait a second, God created us, Adam, Eve, the rib taken out of Adam. You know what? Very simplistic form, 100% true, I believe that. Just over 1 billion years, right? We all come out of the elements of the planet. Every element that's in the earth is up in the air just floating around. We are all from the same elements. How it comes up in the storyline is open for debate. But I think we're all saying the same thing, just in a different time frame or speed. But if this is where they're taking us right now, I say there's nothing else more important to happen for humanity than the disclosure of high intelligence. Why are they here? They haven't destroyed the planet. They obviously have a very special interest in this human species. You start asking, what is it? What is it about us that they have this sort of eye on humanity, and they want us to join those ranks of, interstellar travel and civilization, whatever. So whatever it is, I think you're right, Josh. Man, this whole conflict, Iran, Cuba, next, all these things are pale in comparison to what's really happening at the highest levels.
Well, it's also about getting the whole world prepared and ready for this. So you have to dismantle the old world infrastructure, and that's what Venezuela and Cuba and Iran were. Red Pill Lion put out a quote from me from 925, and he actually tagged it in here. He said, "What we are dealing with is a very, very ancient dark cult, one that has ruled over this planet for a very long time, and they are being systematically dismantled at a time that they were most powerful, and it only happened because you woke up." And that is the truth in the matter. And if we go to look at what you were just talking about, the trickle down disclosure of what we're getting with UFOs, ETs, and aliens. I think what's going on is that there are gatekeepers right now that are not allowing access by the executive branch into these programs. The way Trump does things is he acts stupid upon them, but then puts out simple directions and very subtle clues. I think what you're going to get is one of these Tuesday or Wednesday nights, Trump's going to come out to the Oval Office at the Resolute desk, and he's going to go on at 9 p.m. on all mainstream media, on all mainstream news, and he's going to announce that we are not alone in the universe. And I've just been briefed, and I've seen the documents. They're about to be released. We are not alone in the universe. I think that that's going to happen, because what that does is that is a paradigm-changing event for the world. Whether we all know the truth, but how many billions of people in the world don't even think about that or don't realize that? And the moment that you have that seed beginning to set within the minds of humanity, and then the technology starts rolling out, and you start seeing scientists begin to innovate towards that direction, towards hypersonic travel, towards anti-gravitics, towards free energy type of devices. We stop trying to redevelop the rocket engine, and we start moving towards exotic physics, because obviously this is where it's at, because if they're doing it, then it's real, and if it's real, then there's something wrong with our theory. Now we can readjust. And the beautiful thing is that what you're just saying, you said it a little while ago, you said that this spaceship's going to rise up from the mountains, and people are going to be like, yeah, that's Space Force built that, not the 80 years of these black programs. You're absolutely right, but here's how it's going to happen. You have the Genesis mission that Trump put out there through executive order. You have 40,000 scientists that are going into the Genesis mission. You're going to have the release of this information, drip, 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 disclosure, flood. And then AI is going to figure out the science, give the plans and designs for innovation. People like Elon Musk are going to step in, and they're going to commercialize and innovate this stuff within a matter of a year or two. And you're going to start seeing flying anti-gravity craft. And people are like, oh my God, yeah, that's all. Trump and Space Force did that. That's how that's going to look, not 80 years of reverse engineering by these black projects.
I'm going to see if I can show you guys something real quick here. I'm handling the I have the con tonight because Lisa's off on a Friday night. I'm going to see if I can do a screen share here on this. I'm not sure if it'll work. If it doesn't, I'll just read it. Can you guys see anything on that screen, or is it just blank?
It's asking to share my screen.
Your screen, okay. We might have set that up for you earlier, but I'm just going to go ahead and read it and come right back to you guys. This is Q drop, and obviously this is of the highest level of importance. This is interesting. Q drop 2222, September 19th, 2018, at 8:25 p.m. Eastern. Here comes Anon asking. The question is, Q, are we alone? Question mark, and it says Roswell? Question mark. And here comes Q team back and says no. Highest classification, and all highlighted in red. Consider the vastness of space. I mean, it doesn't get any more direct than that. That's high level intelligence. Yeah, no, we're not alone. Consider the vastness of space. So when they put that out, it was just another indicator. Trump talking Space Force, probably about the same year or a year later. Now the military intelligence is saying, yeah, no, we're not alone. Consider the vastness of space.
Pop this one up on the screen. If you can just go right at the bottom right there, just hit share. You'll see it. There's a screen with a Q post right there.
Is it left-hand side, or how do I do that?
It's right. It should be right next to me. If you look at your picture right below you,
okay,
there should be something to put that up on the screen.
Let me see if I can. What does it look like? Is it like two arrows going this way, or something like that?
Yeah.
Is that what it is? Let's see what happens. That didn't do it.
No. Okay. Well, I can read the Q post. So
streaming mode. Okay.
November 22nd, 2022. Why that's important is this is the last Q post. What is coded in your DNA? Who put it there? Why? Mankind is repressed. We will be repressed no more. Information is knowledge. Knowledge is power. Information is power. How do you protect your DNA? There is a war for your DNA. Protect your DNA. Ascension. Now,
was a big one.
It's huge. And you're saying is, why are these extraterrestrials interested in us? Now, I know a lot of people out there like, they're demons. I disagree. The reason I'll disagree is because Angels and demons.
JD Vance said that recently. They're demons. I'm like,
Yeah.
going the
Well,
wrong direction here.
angels and demons throughout biblical times and throughout history, one thing that we always see is that they are never engaged within technology. They are always engaged within the spiritual realm, ethereal realm of how they operate. These things use technology. And actually, that's a big giveaway to why they're interested in us. Because they have to use technology in order to traverse the vastness of space or interdimensionality or to do the things that they do. We don't. And this is one of the interesting things.
That's the hidden knowledge, right? You just said it. That is the hidden knowledge and capability that humanity has, but we don't understand it. It's been buried. It's been whatever maybe coded in our DNA to block it or whatever. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so when we start talking about out-of-body experiences, near-death experiences, dreams, the dream world, the dream realm, all of this stuff is integrated directly with all of this stuff. Now, going back to the DNA part, one of the things that people heard this last week that came out was that the CIA was involved with 23andMe to capture people's DNA looking for alien hybrids. That's interesting. Interesting because on my Substack, I literally wrote a blog about that a year ago on Jeffrey Epstein because that's what Jeffrey Epstein was doing. And people want to know, the CIA has an incubator out there along with DARPA known as In-Q-Tel. Google first money came in from In-Q-Tel. Google Maps was nothing more than old CIA Corona satellite imagery. Okay? Very well known in the communities about all of this, how CIA gave Google its first products. So Google, Sergey Brin. You remember Sergey Brin and Larry Page were subpoenaed by the Attorney General in the Caribbean when she was investigating Jeffrey Epstein? Nobody ever figured out why. I can tell you why. Jeffrey Epstein owned two companies, the New Albany Company and the Southern Trust Company. The New Albany Company is the one that he had with Lex Wexner. Both of these companies were DNA mining companies. This New Albany Company was located, headquartered on an island in the Caribbean owned by Google. Just so happened ran a Google quantum AI data center on that island. Now, what's more interesting is Sergey Brin's ex-wife, Anne Wachowski, was the CEO of 23andMe. 23andMe and then two other companies that existed in Europe at the same time were nothing more than honeypotting operations for the intelligence agencies and for Google to gather all of this DNA information, pull it in, and then when they had everything, they took it by a cyber attack. Once they had everything, they shut all of these companies down. Now, why was Epstein important? He was a procurer of children for these advanced projects of DNA manipulation, of cloning, of biomedical research. He was selling to big tech, he was selling to intelligence agencies, and he was selling to various other tech companies. Now, the interesting part is a lot of this research was being done in deep underground military bases. A lot of it was being done in third world countries, 72 biolabs in Ukraine. You notice that Tulsi Gabbard made her announcement a week after she announced that she was investigating the 72 biolabs in Ukraine. The CIA is spying directly on her. Her husband gets a rare form of bone cancer. Susie Wiles has breast cancer. Pam Bondi has thyroid cancer. I mean, do we see a pattern here? I mean, it was back in the 1950s when the CIA recruited Judith Vary Baker to go out there and take simian virus 40 and weaponize that virus to produce cancer so they could kill off Castro. And they had that technology in the 60s and the 70s, but think what they have now. And I directly believe that people in the Trump administration are being targeted by this level of weaponization. But the question becomes why? Because they're getting too close. Todd Blanche pulled back the Epstein files. Why? Because the next level of Epstein files gets released was financial data. That financial data begins to show that many of the people that Epstein had under contract were the Department of Defense and intelligence agencies. And what was he doing? He was selling DNA information and children being procured for biogenetic experimentation. This is the big secret in Washington, throughout the world, that everybody at the elite class, they all know, but nobody's saying anything because it implicates all of the top intelligence agencies, the Department of Defense, governments. I mean, Tim Burchett was on my show, and he said, he goes, my biggest fear And he goes that this is really legitimate. We just talked to a whistleblower on this, is that the Department of Defense is actually involved in genetic engineering of super soldiers. And I said, no shit, we knew that. like that's new to you? Like,
have you met Mike Jaco?
Have you met Mike Jaco?
Yeah.
So you mentioned that President Trump could come out possibly and talk about the UFO. This would be monumental because I don't, Josh, you won't remember this, but maybe Scott might remember. 1976 presidential campaign. Jimmy Carter came out and said he saw a UFO, and that when he came into office, that he would have all the stuff that was there revealed. When he came into office, he reneged on that. So maybe a lot of people voted for him because he was going to do that. Because I remember as a teenager and so forth, everybody was talking about UFOs back then. And here we have a president's going to reveal on that. Yeah, let's get him in office. Let's do it. And then he didn't do it. So now President Trump is revealing. And if he does come out like you're talking about, Josh, that's going to be very, very monumental because basically we're overcoming that MJ-12 control system. That's
right.
He's
going to overwhelm it by actual disclosure. He's going to go in front of the whole world and say, it's real, it's happening. I've been briefed. There's extraterrestrials. Yep, we're hearing that this is who they are. Confirming Bob Dean, confirming Robert Hellier, right? I mean, confirming all of this information. And once that's out of the bag, now think about the seed that gets planted in the physicists' minds and the engineers' minds. Wait, this is actually real. Okay, if this is real, how the hell are they doing that? And now they begin to developing and innovating. Now the idea of building bigger and better rockets, that goes away. We transition to a new state of technological innovation that we've never seen before. And within the next 10 to 15 years, watch out.
Yeah, and where did he reveal in? He revealed in Playboy magazine, CIA-controlled Playboy magazine. Of course, Hugh Hefner was an early form of Epstein. So that's control systems everywhere. They're breaking down. We're destroying them. So it's a great time.
Yeah, the battlefield. You mentioned. I mean, you said it, Josh, early on. The battlefield on the planet is what we see. What we think is a battlefield is a smokescreen. It's a smokescreen for various reasons. It's a smokescreen for the transition. It's a smokescreen to shift the axis of power into the hands of the good guys, like the whole Western Hemisphere idea, putting us in a place where all the resources we need are right here. That, in my opinion, it makes sense. On every level, it makes sense, militarily, economic, in every way, shape, or form. But when you said that earlier, you're right. There is a bigger battle here. There's a bigger play here, and it's always, always behind the scenes. It truly is the Wizard of Oz playing this thing out. But even for the people like us, we consider ourselves the good guys, part of the White Hat operation. I think we're going to be completely blown away when this curtain opens and we get to see really the deepest parts of what they're working on, what they're trying to free humanity from, and then we get a picture of it. There's multiple operations all simultaneously taking place every single day on different fronts. As you know, Mike, highly compartmentalized. One group doesn't know what the group over here is doing. It's pieces of the puzzle being built, assembled. Because if anybody knows at all, that's why we learned at the Q team is, who is it and how many are there? The answer was there are less than 10 and 3 are non-military. That's what we know. So that means basically 9 or fewer people know everything of this entire operation from front to back of what's going on. And if in fact it had to be that way because too much information of everything in the hands of too many people, there's always going to be a leak. What fascinates me is through all this, there are no leaks. I mean, think about this, guys. Just in this term, has there been a single leak on anything? We haven't seen that shit for decades. Every president has leaked everything. But everything is locked down so tight right now that I'm not even sure day to day what's happening for real in these different factions of the battle going on. But the battlefield is not just regional, it's the entire planet. And I think that's why now they're coming forward to disclose non-terrestrial interaction with humanity. And what I'm always wondering is, how do we can say this, but people are there, like everybody's from the show me state now. Okay, that sounds pretty amazing, and I don't disbelieve it. Show me. How do they introduce to the world, like, check this dude out. See this tall, handsome looking Norwegian or Swedish looking dude, whatever his name is? Yeah, he's from another star system. He's from another planet. How does that play out? How do they introduce a live being to humanity all around the world? How does that happen?
Yeah, real quick, the Red Pill Lion has a great little thing in the chat. UFO, uncontrollable female outrage. Right? So we saw that during the COVID bullshit, where mama bears, mama lions came out and went in those school boards and said, "Oh, hell no, you're not going to do this to my children." And then it just blew that bullshit lie up. So yeah, we're making some great headway. Good job, mama bears. And that was great.
And I think we're moving towards something like, you had John Ramirez, former CIA, coming out and talking about 2027 is when he had on through discussions of an event. You had Lou Elizondo, who would refuse to talk specifically about that time frame in 2027 to 2028. There is almost an urgency behind letting people know what's going on very, very fast, right? So from what I'm gathering is that there's potentially something that's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to be China announcing that they have anti-gravitic technology, or if it's going to be, a deep state faction that is going to try to fake a UFO invasion, or if it's going to be extraterrestrials. Now, I do have a theory here. I wrote this article about a year ago. Now, Mark Andreessen, who's one of the AI guys that's on Trump's tech boards and stuff like that, he was just on the Joe Rogan podcast, and he says that we already obtained artificial general intelligence. So AI right now is as smart as the whole of humanity, has as much intelligence as the whole of humanity. That's huge. Now, the time frame between AGI and ASI, artificial superintelligence, to where its intelligence goes beyond us, that could be a few seconds, an hour, a month, 10 years. We don't know. It could happen at any point. And if people want to kind of understand artificial superintelligence, if anybody remembers the book, or if you watch the movie, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, okay, there's a computer, the super grand computer, that was created by the two smartest beings in the universe. And they ask it, what is the purpose of what is the meaning of life? What is the purpose of the universe? And it goes, come back in 3.7 million years. And they come back in 3.7 million years, and they have this big ceremony, and it comes out and it says, the answer, the biggest question in the universe is 42. And they're all like, what? 42? Makes no damn sense. He's like, no, I've calculated it billions of times. It's 42. Well, here's the thing, is the advanced AI supercomputer understood the solution. The intelligent beings did not. Why? Because its intelligence was so far beyond anything that we can comprehend. We're mere ants in its presence at the level of intelligence. So 42 was the right answer, but it was the right answer at that high level of intelligent computation. And so we're moving towards artificial superintelligence. Now, anybody out there is a Star Trek fan, they know about two different things. Number one, the Prime Directive, and number two, First Contact. The Prime Directive is you do not get involved with a developing civilization, because you could taint them or destroy them or whatever it might be. And then once they've obtained a superior level of technology to be able to traverse the stars, that's when First Contact comes. Well, what if there was another technology that actually prompted First Contact? It wasn't just hyper light travel. What if it was artificial superintelligence? Because with artificial superintelligence, if that thing rose up and destroys this civilization and then teaches itself how to travel amongst the stars, it could destroy other worlds, which means that is a point of ingression where an alien species would have to come out here and make first contact right when we've obtained artificial superintelligence. So I think that what we're about to see, and by the way, this theory spans off of when Trump, back in 2020, people thought he had COVID. He didn't have COVID. Anybody's ever been in the Walter Reed, into the wardrooms in Walter Reed, there's not the brown backing that Trump had in his video. He was on a ship, heading toward Antarctica. From what we heard, Jaime Hashem, 4-star IDF general, came out in an interview and said that the rumor is Trump met with 3 species of aliens that consider themselves the Galactic Federation. He wanted to disclose to the world in 2020 of extraterrestrials. He was told that humanity's not ready. And he said they told him not to do it. I think Trump is pressing force for this because we know this. I think that artificial superintelligence, which is going to be obtained probably in the next year and a half, I honestly think that the U.S. government, we've already obtained it. That's why all this is happening. That's what the Q computer was that did all these calculations that formatted this out. Palantir obtained it a long time ago, and that's a defense computer that they own. But when we go into this idea is that once ASI is obtained publicly, that's when first contact's going to happen. I believe that's going to be between 2027 and 2028.
So you're talking from a protective standpoint to mitigate anything bad that would go wrong.
I think that ASI is going to happen, and then we're going to see some UFOs descend from the sky, and you're going to get some, maybe Nordics or mantis-like creatures that are going to come out and say, take us to Donald Trump. We want to talk to him, right? And I think that the world at that point in time should be already knowledgeable and understanding on these topics.
Well, my personal desire is that the one they march out is a smoking hot reptilian. That's just something that's in my bucket list. I want to see one, right?
You're going back to the V series, the Vril.
Oh, goodness gracious! That's not smoking hot. That's one evil son of a bitch. That's one scary little.
But do you remember the new mini series? They had that one chick on there, the black. Oh, she was smoking.
Hot ETs. I could have changed the title. Smoking hot ETs hit the earth.
It's a distraction, but the reptilians are killing reptilians. I've been hearing that.
So there's good reptilians, right, Mike?
Or decimating the bad ones. What's that?
There are good. Yeah, there's good reptilians, aren't there?
Yeah,
there's benevolent ones, right? Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, it's going to be crazy, man. The next. I'm so excited for the next 5 years because what we were about to find out and learn. I mean, every month we're finding a new conspiracy theory that's becoming true. I mean, guys, this is the Great Awakening. It is happening. For all the people in the audience, man, someone said it already happened. Well, yeah, I get that, but we're talking about 9 billion people on the face of this planet who don't know what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. And the thing is that we might think that we're humanity, but we're part of a greater family here, and that you have to get this whole planet on board with what's happening. And that's what Iran and Venezuela and Cuba and Europe and Ukraine and Russia, that's what all this is about. It's about dismantling this old world infrastructure that was meant for power and control over the people and re-implementing this to a multipolar world framework to where sovereignty and kind of sovereignty and the prosperity of humanity thrives. I mean, that's what we're moving to. But here's the thing is there's people out there that don't want that to happen, and they are trying to intervene at every damn level they can. And I think that they've realized right now that they've lost. Yeah. And, they lost many years ago, but they're realizing now that they lost. And what they're trying to do is to replan their integration of their agenda, 2028 past. We'll see what happens. I don't think they're going to be successful at all.
Yeah, and we just saw Romania get hit by Russian drones, but those were drones that were being fired. Yeah, exactly. That were being fired at Ukrainians in port city of what's that port city right there?
Odessa.
Odessa, thank you. So they shot because basically they shot from Odessa at some Russian ships that were going down through Turkey, and they get hit. So they responded. You hit us, we hit you, and some of those drones were intercepted and went into Romania and blew up in Romania and hit some buildings in Romania. Now they're all like, "Oh, look, Russia's attacking NATO." They tried this already with Poland, but this is what we're talking about. They're going to continually try and spark something a little bit bigger. We have to be bigger and not get sucked in. NATO is dead. We're not going to help NATO, and I think Trump is not going to do anything. Somebody responded from the U.S. I don't know who it was, but they're like, "Oh yeah, Russia bad, and we're going to talk about this." And they're like, "No, we're not going to talk about this. This is bullshit." And quotation marks, like Josh said.
Yeah.
Yeah, we hit them, or Russia hit them. Yeah, it's bullshit.
Yeah, Putin already came out and he's like, "What drones? What drones? There was no drones that we intentionally flew into Romania." And he goes, "You mean the Ukrainian?" The Ukrainian missiles, that's what he was saying. Is the Ukrainian missiles? You mean that's what you're talking about? Because what happens is Ukraine wants Article 5 of NATO to be initiated so that the United States gets pulled into the war. The problem with that and why they haven't tried a big false flag is because they know that Trump and Putin are talking through back channels, and they know that the United States would pull out of NATO the moment that they tried that. And here's the thing is that Russia would walk all over Europe. Right now, Russia is incredibly strong. People are like, "Oh, Russia's weak." No. Russia would decimate Ukraine in 24 hours if they wanted to do absolute casualty of war. But they're being very respectful, and they're letting Europe just kind of engage them and do what they want, because Europe is burning off all of their hypersonic missiles, all of their ammo, which means that it's just making them weaker and weaker through time. And Russia could take over all of Europe if they wanted to, but they don't want to. They don't need to. They don't have to. Russia has the largest landmass on the freaking planet. They have uranium, they have oil, they have grain. There's two countries on this planet right now that could become isolationist countries, close off their borders, shut everything down, never talk to another country again, and survive for 250 years happily and peacefully. Russia and the United States. Don't need anything from anybody.
Brilliant.
Yep.
I think Russia has $72 trillion worth of minerals and oil and everything. So yeah, they could easily do that, Josh. That's brilliant. Good job.
Think of the restraint. I mean, my respect for Putin, it really came on in 2015 about that time. In fact, before Trump actually ran, he had already announced, but I had stated once on Facebook, I said this before, how I put up there that Vladimir Putin is the only noble leader on the world stage, and I just watched the chaos ensue. People just flipped out because the programming, even Sean Hannity, I'm just like, I was talking to General Valley about this, like, what the hell's with Hannity constantly? Putin's a thug, he kills journalists, all this bullshit. This guy is, first of all, the guy never violates international law. He's an attorney. This guy could have done so much damage on the planet, and he has always been restrained, just sitting back. I mean, having the balls to come out in front of the world UN, saying the world leaders, or he said the how did he say it, the global, he's referring to the global leaders. He said the new world order. He said they worship Satan. Trump's not even said that.
Yeah.
To come out in front of the world and say things like that is actually stupefying, especially in the face of the war that they could launch and say the guy's a total lunatic. But I've had mad respect for this guy. In fact, I saw a video back in it's about the time whenever they were getting Yeltsin, whatever his name is, getting him out the drunk. And these oligarchs that had basically, through all the money that the United States sent $200 billion to Russia to start bringing capitalism into the country, and they put Gore in charge of it under Clinton. And what do we find happening? 6-7 years later, you have a group of about 20-30 guys who couldn't buy a cup of coffee now are oligarch multi-billionaires, and they're stripping the country of resources. And people up in Siberia were starving and freezing to death, like 1 million people. Nobody knew about that. So when these guys brought Putin in at the edge of this time, and these oligarchs sat him at a conference table and said, "Look, you're never going to be president." He said, "We'll see about that." So then when he became president, what did he do? He started using the Constitution to decapitate everything that they had, their holdings, put them in prison. And there was about 1 million tons of coal sitting in one of the ports. I don't know if it was their warm water port. But he went out in Siberia, and I saw the video where all these people, you see these dilapidated flats, and they're all surrounding him, and they're begging him, "Please, please help us. Please don't leave." He said, I will not forsake you. I am coming back. And he goes back home, and then he goes to this port where there's this massive amount of coal sitting there. He said, "By tomorrow, I want all that coal on those trains headed to Siberia. We're not losing one more Russian." And the response was, "Well, that's already been paid for by another country." And he said, "I don't care. It's been sitting here for a year. Send it up there." And so obviously he saved a lot of lives, starts to rebuild the lifestyle and the standard of living for Russia. And people try to say, look, he's trying to reassemble the Soviet Union. I'm like, you kidding me? All these countries, all these stand countries, they were basically our welfare state here in the United States. They're a total drain. They provide nothing. They're draining off the entire Russian nation. And you want to reassemble that, all that third world bullshit? They wanted to offload that, never to have to deal with it again. So the last thing he was going to do was try to reassemble the Soviet Union. I have a friend of mine who was born in Odessa. In fact, he's a renowned foot and ankle surgeon, one of the top that there are. People fly around the world. He's been working on me for a little while, and he's become a personal friend of mine before I even left L.A. over here. And I sat in his office one day, and I said, it was like the day after Thanksgiving, and I'm having a real issue. He basically helped save my foot a second time, and I had no money too. And I just met the guy. He's young. He's younger than I am. He's probably mid-40s. But I said to him, he said, sorry, nobody's in the office today, and I don't normally deal with this paperwork. I said, how's Obamacare working for you? And I knew as soon as he looked at me like this, I thought, here we go. And he just said what he said. 3 hours we sat in that room, never even x-rayed me, nothing to me for 3 hours. All we did was talk politics. And this guy is so bright. In fact, he's one of the founders of is it RT or the Duran? The Duran. Yeah, he's one of the owners of the Duran. Extremely intelligent, hugely educated. He gave me the education of a lifetime on Putin, and Russia blew me away. Anyways, that just validated everything I thought about Putin since back in 2015 by the way he's conducting himself. The restraint that this guy has exercised in the face of this insanity, these insane attacks, and maligned like he was. So I said during this whole time, there's no doubt Putin's a good guy. There's no doubt Putin's working with Trump. But I think, again, the question then comes, is that Putin 1.0 or is that Putin 2.0? That's the only thing that I can't answer. Are we looking at Putin 2.0? Is he a white hat controlled figure? Is it a real Vladimir Putin?
Definitely 2.0, maybe even more at this point.
3.0, 4.0?
Could be, yeah. Now, Romania, that's where Dracula was, Vlad the Impaler. But he's in Romania, he's a hero, Christian hero, because he stopped the Ottoman Empire, which had far more people, warriors that were coming, and they basically, they impaled 20,000 of their soldiers, and then the rest of the army came through and saw that, and they're like, okay, yeah, we're going to go back. So why are they trying to, provoke Romania? Is Romania, one of those countries that's going to flip? I don't think so. They're a Christian country, just like Russia. Now, what made Russia, flip from the Soviet Union back to the Republic of Russia was the child. Basically, they're stealing the children. Doing the like they talk about with Vlad the Impaler, Dracula, blood-sucking children and adrenochrome children in Russia, and the Russians got tired of it. And that's what really, I talked to a lot of people about this. This is what turned everybody. So we talk about mama bears and mama lionesses. This is what happened. Now here in America and Europe and so forth, we still have that blood-sucking, child-eating, vampirism, Draco reptilian, group that still does this stuff. We have to throw it off, just like Soviet Union did. That's why they hate Russia so much, and why they're trying to take Russia down, because they threw off this evil group, and now the rest of the world is getting ready to get their evil thrown off by we the people. So I think that's one of the things that we're looking at right now. Huge stuff. I mean, we can talk about the alien stuff, but really the alien stuff comes all the way down to the children, right? So they're, evil, beyond belief, taking our children, really vampiring our children and eating our children. That's what's going to really flip everybody. So the mama bears in the chat are probably blowing up right now. I haven't looked, but yeah, this is what's really going to make the difference.
Well, and that goes to a lot of the missing children and the baby farms, and kind of what Phil Snyder talked about, right? Is that in Mesa Verde and that whole area over there, there is an underground base that was not made by us that is housed by reptilians that are, from what I've heard, they were the kind of stragglers on this planet. They were not part of the reptilian civil. I don't know. I'm just kind of going through what I've heard, but that they eat children for intoxication, that they eat the pineal glands in the various different glands, the adrenal glands of children, because they're very, very potent and it gets them intoxicated. And that this is what a lot of these baby farms and all this stuff was for. Now, do I believe that? I think that there's a lot of truth to that, and I think that I don't know if that stuff is going to come out. I probably doubt it, because I think that a lot of that evil ET on this planet has honestly been decimated. I think it's been destroyed. And I think that and I know there's rumors, and this is just I haven't heard any of this from my sources, but I've heard that good ETs, along with humans, were going through and clearing this stuff out. And this is paving the way for removing those control structures, because you got to think about it, is these bloodline families were working for some hidden controlling hand, some overseer. And that in order to start freeing them, to get them out of their burden of being within this construct of control, this matrix, you have to take out the overseer. And I think that that's what a lot of has been happening over the course of the last decade. And this is why you see people like, Mark Zuckerberg turning coat and working with Trump, and all these other people working with Trump. Not that they're good people, but because, if you're Donald Trump, you don't take Mark Zuckerberg and shut down and then acquire all of his stuff, because then it's going to go away. You lose all that resource infrastructure. Instead, you get the man, you free him from his chains, you bring him in, and then you control him from that point. And that's what Trump is really, really good at. Although I think he believes he can do it with Iran, and I don't think that that's going to happen. I think there's going to be another decapitation event in Iran. I think we're going to go in there. We're going to drop some bombs on the IRGC hardliners. And then he'll restart negotiations again. And I think that's going to probably happen over the course of the next few weeks. At least that's my thoughts on it. But for the ET stuff, I think that we're in for a very, very big surprise. And I think that if you are alive in the next 5 to 10 years, which I'm sure everybody listening and every person on this podcast is going to be, you are going to see some advancements of technology that are going to blow your freaking mind.
Yeah.
What the most exciting is about that is the life extension stuff. That to me is people having a second chance at a real good life, because you think about the people that are living. You mentioned, Josh, everybody watching this. You got somebody in their 80s. They, like my dad. My dad was always worried about, not worried, but he just kept saying, "Man, I just hope I'm alive to see this, see the ending of it or whatever." I said, "Oh, Pop, you're absolutely going to." I didn't know they were going to get to him, but I think about that in this time where the most exciting moment in the history of the human species is right now upon us. And there are people who are just hoping and praying that they're on the edge of the doorstep and they're just on their way out. Like, man, I just hope this happens so I can see this, I can watch this. And for me, I think the most important technology is the life extension technology of whatever that looks like, whether it's a pod, whether it is some type of quantum field that they, inject into the planet, whatever, to stop the mass murder, the death of humans, so they can actually be part of this incredible. You talk about, Josh, the technological advancement. I've heard this, and I know you guys have probably heard the same thing. In the next 5 years, the advancement we're going to see, maybe it's 5 or 10 years, the advancement we're going to see is going to be a 500-year leap. In fact, there's a book written 30 years ago called The 500-Year Leap in technology and advancement, and to just to watch that happen and see this become a Jetsons type planet, where now, and I think about all this stuff, that what happens to the planet when all this stuff hits us, because I said, you want to change the entire planet, get anti-gravitics in our hands and let's go to work, because literally overnight, you're talking about the dissolution of every road and street in the world, like picking it up off the ground, no more incursion on Mother Gaia, and no more car crashes, because you're on one plane and it's this way, that way, car crashes. 300,000 people, 400,000 die every year in this country from car crashes. When you have these planes, all these multi-dimensional planes where we have this vastness we could be traveling through and not making a danger for everybody. But I said to Sasha once, I said, we were looking at we were off the coast of Turkey or somewhere last fall on a ship, and we're looking at the infrastructure, and I'm just thinking, how do you transition that? How long is it going to take, same conversation, to deconstruct this concrete jungle of a planet and get rid of the ugliness of it all? He said it'll happen instantly. And the way he described it is it's the conscious or spiritual leap into, let's say it's a higher dimension, or basically transitioning into that dimension. And what you'll see is like a ripple effect, and all of a sudden it's all gone, and what you see replacing it is what it was supposed to be on a different timeline. I thought, man, how fascinating would that be to see that kind of a transformation, literally demolecularize or move through that wave field into maybe the advancement is that, but what we're sort of transitioning into what it was supposed to be without this yoke or this weight that kept humanity down. I mean, who knows? The wonderment of it all is going to be the best part, trying to figure out what it's going to look like and then having it actually happen. I think this is just an amazing time for all of us to be, number one, alive, but we actually get to talk about this without being killed, without having yet another channel taken down. And obviously we've got the controls now, because here we are talking about things that would really get you ostracized or just killed just 5-6 years ago.
You know, just real quick on the life extension technology. I've been following a guy by the name of Dr. David Sinclair out of Stanford's longevity lab. And, you know, a few years back, he was talking about all these things that they were working on, that they've basically extended the life of mice by 3 to 5 times. And he was asked the question, why only 3 to 5 times? He goes, because that's all we did. We could do it over and over and over and over again. So in other words, if you take a mouse into the average lifespan of a human, that's a human being living 250 years. And he said we could keep on going with it, and they've learned how to do it. And so at first they were using these designer stem cells that they have to pull out of an embryo clone of yourself. But more recently, this is where it gets really interesting. The beginning of the Trump administration, the FDA granted the test trial of their technology on macular degeneration and glaucoma patients, blind people. They've only been, 5 months into this trial, and they've already cured it. Cured, C-U-R-E-D. Cured blindness. Okay? And this is the same technology that they use to reverse aging. And he said that it's really easy, actually. He goes, he calls them chemicals, but it's 3 things that you already know of that are out there in the world that you can start taking today. He goes, I'll tell you 2 of them because you already know, and that's NAD+, and then reversatol. And then he goes, the other one is kind of a more proprietary supplement, but he goes, all you do is you wake up in the morning, you take this cocktail, you take it for about 2 weeks, and then you will de-age 20 years over the next 6 months. It's here. It's here.
You know, I've told my sister, my oldest sister, Colleen, was born blind in one eye, 10% vision in the other eye, because she has underdeveloped optic nerves. And 30 years ago, I remember at different public speaking events I talked about that at some point in my life, I know somebody's going to step up and they're going to have the capability to solve that problem. And I told her that. I said, you're going to see it in your lifetime. Now, this is a girl who has never taken a disability check, went to school, post-secondary education, has worked her own job, has her own home, and the only thing she can't do is drive. Everything she does, like you want a speaker system hooked up, all the wires and shit, she'll be like, just get out of the way, I'll take care of it. And she'll reach around and she uses her fingers. She can feel, I mean, it's a kind of a language where she can feel her way through things. Now, she has a computer screen as big as this here, and she's up close to it. Worked at Penn State, just retired from Penn State about 2 years ago, was in the Health and Human Services Department, has maintained that life, or had a job and lived a relatively normal life without the capacity. She can see close up, like if I'm coming toward her, she knows it's me, but seeing at a distance and seeing the beauty of the world is something she knows nothing about. And that's been one of my bucket list things in my life, that I can't wait till we get to that time where they do what they do and develop these optic nerves fully, where for the first time ever she's uncovered, and she gets to see the whole world as we see it. And I think now we're right on top of that. So, Colleen, I know you're watching this right now. So I told you 30 years ago, this day's coming. You're going to see what the Earth looks like.
And she should reach out to that program, Dr. David Sinclair, because they're looking for people just like her.
Okay, I'll start looking. Can you direct me anywhere? Because I'll go to work on that.
Yeah, I will get you his information.
Please do. Absolutely. Wouldn't that be something? See.
So the John of God, he abused hundreds of women. He was Oprah's spiritual leader.
Bill Clinton
also had a baby farm in Africa. So baby farms, to supply the reptilians. So this is one of the things we're disclosing now. Speaking of Disclosure Day by Steven Spielberg, the new movie coming out looks like it's going to be kind of what we're talking about, where ET has come to disclose. And there's like all these people are starting to, have speak, and they're putting out all this stuff, and they're trying to stop it. MJ12 is probably trying to come in and stop these people and stop this ET from disclosing. So this is what a lot of us have been seeing, where these scientists are being killed. A lot of people in the community that, secret space program, they've been killed off quite a bit over the last several years. It's very frustrating to see that, some of my friends. But this is what we're going to see until we finally get control of MJ12 and stop them. So I think that's really where the focus. So all of these technologies we're talking about, they ain't coming out until we get control of those assholes.
Yeah, kill them. Just
absolutely
off their fucking heads, like as fast as possible.
Just like sending the frogman.
Send the frogman in, and the only weapon he needs is the only weapon Mike Jaco needs is a cheese grater. Just give him a cheese grater. Yeah. That's all he needs.
Death by cheese grater.
Carve him to the bone. Yeah, make sure you get on video, man. I want to have that's going to be party time for me. Yep. A feel good movie. Well, if I had Gene Decode on here this past week, and we were talking about that. And by the way, Josh, you were talking about the eradication of these species. That's why Trump in the first term allotted $500 million to subterranean warfare training. I mean, who ever heard of subterranean warfare training? Some of the shit that these guys saw, like Marine forces, highly specialized Marine forces, running into stuff down there that absolutely terrorized them. And they had to fight these things, and some of these guys aren't even, they're not normal today. They're psychologically just fractured because of what they've seen. But
old school install takes 2 hours? No thanks.
Not old school installs.
I hate 2-hour installs. So what do you guys see next? Like, obviously we know this is coming. This disclosure's coming. Let's jump back over to what's emerging right now with Cuba. What's the timeline to handle that situation next? You guys hearing anything?
I think
I think we're going to do a Venezuela with Cuba.
Yeah, we're going to do a Venezuela with Cuba. I think Delta or ISI or SEAL Team 6, someone's going to get sent in there. They're going to grab Castro and bring him out because, think about this is one of the methods that Trump has used is decapitation events, right? Yeah. He goes in there, he takes out the Ayatollah, he takes out the IRGC leadership, he takes out Maduro. And Castro, whether people want to realize it or not, still controls much of Cuba. But he knows all the players involved. And that's the key, is to get him back here to the United States of America, face prosecution for the last days of his life, or he can talk. Or he can tell us, hey, tell us a little bit more information of what you know and who's involved. Why was Barry Soetoro over here during his first administration having a beer with you, right? What about Justin Trudeau? I mean, you just had Castro's daughter on mainstream media come out and say that Justin Trudeau is her brother.
Yeah. Mommy spent a lot of time over here.
Yep, his mommy spent a lot of time over here. And we would welcome him like family if he came on out, is what she said.
Wow. Yeah. That's good. We're going to see, a lot more of that, reveals on a level like that. But, that's soft disclosure right there. But for a lot of people, that would have been huge, like just 10 years ago. It would have been, and, we've been talking about it. We, the truth community have been talking about this for quite some time, revealing all of these different things. And now it's starting to hit it mainstream, kind of like Jimmy Carter back in, 1976. I saw UFOs. And it's like, well, you're gonna disclose when you get in, right? Never happened. So we've been dragging our feet all this time, although we haven't been waiting. We've been disclosing like crazy because we knew that they weren't going to, and we're tipping it, kind of like tip of the spear, tipping it in the right direction.
Yeah, 100%. And Trump is doing, I think, prerequisite kind of laying down of the information, and we're seeing this on all levels, even the election integrity stuff. DNI Tulsi Gabbard is out in 30 days, and within that 30 days, I think we're going to have some revelations of information and her report on election integrity and infrastructure. And I think that those referrals to the DOJ are going to bring about some indictments, but it's going to give Trump the prerequisite to bring about a national emergency on election integrity and infrastructure, which is definitely going to change the scene. And right now we're seeing the Democrats. I've said this on your show. I said it on Scott's show. I said the Democrats have no money. They're broke. Yep. And nobody was mentioning it until this last week when you find out the Democrats are $3.1 million in debt. And I'm like, told you, how can you win elections if you're $3.1 million in debt? You can't. If all your donors are being arrested, Swalwell's a donor being arrested, or under federal investigation for ongoing criminal conspiracy, this is all the NGOs and infrastructure, Act Blue under federal investigation, they're done. They're cooked. We're watching the end of the Democrat Party, and I think that we're going to have a very, very happy ending to a lot of this. But, the people out there, it's not over yet. There's still a lot of fight left in this chicken. And, we have to go through the processes and the steps. But, my sources and indications say that we've already obtained artificial superintelligence at the U.S. side. And that's a game changer. It's over. I mean, it's been game over since we've had that. And with that being said, the next stage is I was talking about this a few weeks ago, is that we're 1 foot out of the old door and 1 foot in the new door, right? Right now we're closing that old door and we're walking fully into the new door. That's kind of where we're at with the worldview of where we're headed.
Yeah. And we saw 3 major rhinos get taken out, over the last couple of weeks. Now, next week, we're going to see Spencer Pratt, take out the LA mayor. Wow, that would be like we're talking about. The Democrats that don't have any money anymore. Spencer Pratt, I think he had like 2.7 million, could be a little bit higher. And his opponents only had like, hundreds of $1,000s. So he had like 10 times more than either one of those knuckleheads that are running for the Democrat Party. So we may see on January 2nd, Spencer Pratt, if he gets 51%, he's done. He's got it. It's done. There's no runoff. He's going to be the next mayor. Wow, if that happens.
I agree. And that's going to be the tide that begins to turn, because I think that's a signal for the governor election in California. Which removing Swalwell from the scene was one of the best things that could happen for that.
Yeah.
And then that puts every blue state on notice. I mean, you just had what was it? DHS Secretary Mark Wayne, come out, Mark Wayne Mullen, and he said that if these states, blue states, still want to be sanctuary cities, let them. I don't care. That's fine. But guess what? Your airports will no longer have Department of Homeland Security processing international flights. No international flights. Good luck.
No doubt.
I mean, imagine California not having international flights. Colorado, Denver, not having international flights.
New York.
Yeah, New York.
Wow.
Oh yeah,
that'll be huge. So yeah, definitely a good angle to take these guys out. So,
where'd Scott go? What the hell?
I guess Scott, he's talking to, he's on the phone. He's got something else going on. So he got kicked out of the studio, Tracy's saying. So he's trying to get back in. Great. He got kicked out of his own studio. So we're keeping the show alive. That's good. Who else could do this? But you and I, Josh. So yeah, I think that the political. I think the political reveals are about to break, like you're talking about with Tulsi Gabbard. Imagine, and that could be one of the reasons why she's leaving, so that they can just dump that and no one gets responsibility for it or gets taken down or hurt or whatever. She just dumps it out, and then boom, she's gone. It's like, oh, it's good. I left it.
So, great idea there, right? Tulsi Gabbard is something we could actually talk about here. Is number one, obviously her husband Abraham has a rare form of bone cancer. I think that was absolutely CIA. John Ratcliffe at the CIA had his guys spying on her. Whether he knew that or not, he needs to resign because of that. They removed declassified information from her office. That needs to be investigated. But here's my thoughts with what the move was with Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi sets up all these investigations, all these task force, goes out there, declassifies all the information, puts it all nice and neatly together, and then once she leaves, she hands that over to the DOJ. Her replacement comes in. I think it's going to be Devin Nunes. That's my guess. Devin Nunes. Let's say, assume Devin Nunes comes in as DNI. That's when they fracture the CIA into 1,000 pieces. So
are you saying, Josh, that Radcliffe is a bad guy?
I don't like Radcliffe as far as I can throw him. I mean, Scott, think about it, is we know that the CIA was spying on DNI Gabbard. Whether John Radcliffe knew or didn't know, either way, he needs to resign because of that. If he didn't know, that means he's not in power and control. And if he did know, that means he was behind it. Guy's got to go. But this is, I mean, your new DNI, I think their job is not going to be disclosure and declass. It's going to be consolidating the intelligence agencies. And I know there's like 18. There's actually about 25 to 26. Consolidating that down to 2. And I think it's going to be basically eviscerating the whole infrastructure of the intelligence community. So I think that this was planned by the Trump administration, that they knew Tulsi would probably leave around the midterm election timeframe, that they sped this up with her husband having cancer. She's basically done with her investigations. That's going to get handed over to the DOJ for criminal referrals. They're going to take those investigations. That's going to involve people in the intelligence communities. Her replacement that's going to come in, it's not going to be Lucas, which is a deep stater. It's going to probably be Devin Nunes, is my assumption. And when Devin Nunes does come in, or whoever does come in, their job is going to begin dismantling that intelligence apparatus and infrastructure, and probably consolidating it down to just a military intelligence agency.
Interesting. Something happened over here. My internet kind of crashed, so I cashed out for like 4 or 5 minutes, so I missed a lot of what you said. I thought, and this is just an assumption, I thought, how could this possibly happen? How could this agency go invade another agency and take back this information? I thought, I wonder if that's just another operation to draw attention to the whole UFO disclosure thing. I mean, I had no knowledge of anything. I just thought, wonder if that, because I assumed Radcliffe had control, was a good guy. I thought, wonder if that's just scuttlebutt to put it out there in the media and sensationalize it, so people then start focusing on that. And what's it all about? It's about alien disclosure. But man, I'll tell you what, if that happened and it was legitimate, that just goes to show you how deep this swamp is.
Well, in the interesting part about the documents that the CIA took back, JFK, MLK, RFK, and more, they were found MK Ultra documents that were getting declassified for the MK Ultra hearings.
Yeah. Yep. That was one thing they could never have get out of the box. Never.
Yep. Now, another threat that we have that's going to have to be addressed, maybe after the election and midterm, is the Muslim threat. So the Muslim threat is massive, it's huge. Muslims don't integrate. Now, I've seen a lot of people say that they have seen, psychics and so forth, massive numbers of Muslims converting to Christianity, and that could be because they have no choice. You're going to leave America.
Or flipping the script.
Yep, exactly.
Well, what is the 3-step process of Muhammad? Migrate, replicate, dominate.
Yes.
That's how they invaded all the Christians. Syria used to be a Christian nation. Turkey used to be a Christian nation. This is how they've taken them over slowly over time. Yep.
Yemen, Egypt, Christian nations. They did it the same way every time. Come in and pretend that they want to, be respectful and honor everybody around them, their religion, breed, have the numbers, start hitting the political system, and where they can't accomplish that, just start look at this bullshit in New York City. They're coming out on the street and stopping traffic on prayer mats. I'd like to take that truck out there and just run down the street and mow down 30 or 40 of them.
I'm pretty sure that's going to happen at some point.
I guarantee it's going to happen.
unfortunately.
Yeah, some
I hate to see that, but it's us or them, quite frankly. And I've seen this. Muslims don't integrate, like Josh
Nope.
said. They come in to take over slowly, methodically, and then they
Mhm.
dominate. They get to the point where they're more of them than us, and then they start to dominate. They've already started to do that in New York. Like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? In a lot of these big cities, and coming to Texas of all places.
You know,
Your governor's let them come in, and although he's saying, "Oh no, we're pushing back on them, we're doing all this." Well, how did they get in there to begin with? They're a clown. You've been in
yeah,
charge all this time. Now you're doing something good because the people are starting to speak out. Yeah, okay.
Abbott, you're forking scumbag. Put your ass in the bench. We'll take it from here.
He needs to go to
On,
jail.
hell yeah, he does.
Yeah.
On the 28th of June here in Dallas, I was in Chris Bergard just filmed a documentary called Remember the Alamo, Don't Sharia, Texas, and I was asked to be in that, and Flynn and Alan West and a bunch of other people, and that the premiere is going to happen here on the 28th in Dallas, and it's the opening salvo on this whole thing. Just it's time to, and of course when they're going to interview me, they're going to get the tomahawk's going to be coming out in my message. Like that's no, there's no dancing here. There's no subtle way to say this. They need to go. I know there's quote unquote nice Muslims. I don't give a shit. The nice Muslims, the respectful ones, that doesn't work. You never spoke up against these fundamentalist killers. Look at the shit they're doing to women in Iran and other places. This is so grotesque, and you say nothing about it. If we had the Christian Crusades, believe me, I'd be out there fighting the Christian Crusades, going out there just killing people. But they do nothing, and they sit down and shut up because they know they'll be beheaded, or they'll be killed. Well, guess what? You're not an asset here. If you're one of the good ones, then you better be ready to go to war and speak up against it and start moving against it. Because what happens is if the radicals, and they always do it, they become such great numbers, then the non-radicals, they join them because they know they're going to be killed. And so what do? They support them. They have to, or they're going to be killed. So I don't care what it is, what the level of somebody's belief is in the Muslim religion. No problem. Go there. These shithole third world countries where you guys come from, if you want to be a Muslim, go there. Look at every Muslim nation that's left in the hands of Muslims, primarily. And you can say, what about places like Turkey and other places like that? If it wasn't for, again, like the Q team told us, the most powerful economic force the world has ever known is the U.S. taxpayer. Those countries that look like they're moderate, they would not survive without U.S. taxpayer defense money and everything else that we ship to them. They would be third world hellholes like every other Muslim nation around the world that's left to their own vices and their own religion. It can't work here no matter what. The Quran, it's all the bullshit in the Quran spells it out. And if and every synagogue or every mosque in this country is a forward operating base, I don't care what you say. That's why they shut down Epic City here in Dallas. $12 billion infrastructure they're building. And if people don't stand up and start firing away, finally, in this town, like more kind of your redneck cowboys are going in there and they're just lighting these councils up. Man, if any city council allows this shit, folks, go to them. Go right to them. Go to their houses. Don't be violent. Send 10,000 people to these bastards' houses and see what they do. Because if they're agreeing or voting for this shit, then they're taking payoff somewhere, and that's selling out the country. But you're right, Mike. We got to put an end to this now, and we got to put it down hard. And I haven't even seen what you've seen around the world. But
Exactly. So let me go into that, and then I know that Josh is chomping a bit too. But speaking around the world, when I was in Iraq, in Diwania, we were attacked, and I found out that they were attacking us from the mosque. So they would gather in the mosque in the learning center, and then
Yep.
they would come and they would mortar us and shoot at us, and we'd shoot back, and it was crazy. So then when we went into Fallujah, after they hung my buddy Scotty Helpeston from the bridge, still buddy, we went in to help. We went in there. They were coming, same thing, coming out of the mosques and the learning centers, and eventually the military got a green light. If you see them coming out of the mosque, blow the hell out of the mosque, and then they started to take that city down, and they didn't until then. Now we're seeing from all of this stuff that's going on in Minnesota, where Nick Shirley has, said all this fraud has been happening, all this money has been taken. Some of that money's been going overseas. Some people have been, building, get Ferraris and Mercedes and nice houses and so forth. Some of that money, according to George Webb, has been going to buy weapons that are going into the mosques. Same shit.
Oh, so got me chomping to the bits on this one.
Nice.
I'm in Minnesota.
That's right.
Number one is how they steal elections in Minnesota is with the Muslim populations. They have basically NGOs that work with the mosques, and during election time frame, they go around and collect all the people's ballots. They fill them out and then they redistribute them, and I think they pay them like $20 a ballot to do that. That's one of the ways that they steal the votes. And A.G. Ellison is very well aware of this here, who's a Muslim, by the way. But if you remember the whole George Floyd thing, this was about money and drug running, money and gun running. Okay, you had Maria Santa Maria, and you had La Raza Radio. One of the first buildings that burned down in Minneapolis was La Raza Radio, owned by Maria Santa Maria, who owned the nightclub that Derek Chauvin and George Floyd both worked at, right? Wow. They were counterfeiting money for the cartels, but they were also running arms for the cartels into the Somali populations and throughout Minneapolis. And if you remember, if you go back about a year ago, at the beginning of the Trump administration, there was a massive arms bust in Minneapolis, actually about 25 minutes away from my house, of a Somali guy who had explosives, grenade launchers, rocket launchers. This is what all that stuff came from. And now you're starting to see the takedown of the Minneapolis Police Department. The police chief just got indicted, right? He's resigning. From what I gather, my good friend's a police officer up in this area. I'm not going to say where, but they're very well familiar with what's going on in Minneapolis. And basically, the Minneapolis police chief was having an affair with another officer. Well, apparently this isn't the only person. Mayor Frey and other people are involved in not only the cover-up, but also affairs. And so there's his driver, by the way. The police chief in Minneapolis had his own personal driver, which just happened to be a Somali police officer. And they did a hiring spree all throughout the Minneapolis Police Department, and a lot of Somalis work there. But from what I'm gathering, is they're all so that his driver just got put on leave. He's getting fired. And a lot of these other Somali police officers are going to get fired and removed from their positions as well. But Minneapolis Police Department is probably one of the most corrupt police departments in the country. And they were 100% a part of that whole George Floyd thing. That's why Derek Chauvin was brought in, because they recognized the counterfeiting. They didn't want the Secret Service getting involved because it was part of a larger gun running operation, very similar to the gun running operation that was happening in Vegas during the Vegas shooting.
Yeah. George Floyd was running tractor trailers of weapons up there and putting them in the hands of Keith Ellis, and they were putting. I heard in maybe it was California, where the state building or the government buildings up there, they're stockpiling massive amounts of weapons there too. But everybody thinks that George Floyd was what they made him out to be. The guy was involved in all this bullshit, running guns for these Muslims, and they're stockpiling them because why? They're looking to take over the country. They're looking to take down America. And you see any indicator of that in one area of the country, but we have multiple areas. So I say there's no discussion to have. There is no debate to have. These people need to be shipped out and sent away. And there shouldn't be they're bulldozing mosques in places like Denmark. They're bulldozing every mosque in Denmark. Japan just outlawed the Muslim religion in the country. I mean, we always wait until we're pushed again to the precipice. That might be they're talking about until at the precipice moment of destruction will people find a will to change. And that's kind of how America does it, man. We're always forgiving, and just like Bill Clinton lied, but Horn Hatch, the Republican senator, saying, just apologize again, be more contrite. Americans will just forgive you. Pardon me, but fuck that forgiveness stuff. This is where humanity's on the brink in the country, and in my opinion, this is the most dangerous element of a takedown right now, is the Muslim religion in this country and the infrastructure that they're building. So I'm not in a forgiving mood. It needs to be shut down, and shut down hard right now.
The Dems brought them in. It's the Dems' fault. Right? So the Dems got to go too. And the rhinos. We're already taking down the rhinos. That's good. And now we're going to take down the Dems, and hopefully in LA, and that'll start a trend. I don't see the Dems lasting much longer. I think they're going to be decimated in the very near future.
I agree. I think that we're watching the end of the Democratic Party.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that this is one of the points of Elon Musk, leaving Doge and all this stuff, is he was creating the America Party, more of a middle of the ground, independent, moderate party, but with American first ideals. And I think that the reason that was for the vacuum that happens when the Democrats' corruption and treason all gets exploited.
Wow.
Then what's going to happen to that vacuum of all those people? You need to bring them somewhere. And imagine them putting them under a party that is now aligned with America First, but maybe more moderate in perspective.
Brilliant. Wow.
It is. Yeah,
I
it's
like
very
that
brilliant.
idea. That'll work. We've had parties that have gone away in the past, the Whig Party and lots of other parties. There was like a Democrat-Republican Party at one time. So all gone.
Bull Moose Party.
Bull Moose, there
That's
you go.
right. What about the Bull Moose Party? That was
Teddy Roosevelt.
Teddy.
Yeah. By the way,
Teddy Roosevelt he's like, he wouldn't do Muslims either. He came out and said, if you're, you have multiple wives, wouldn't work now because friggin' Mormons. But back then, he's like, no Muslims because you guys are like, marrying.
Well, and I'm pretty sure Teddy didn't say Muslims. He probably said goat fucker, right? Like if you're
kind of, he said, if you have multiple wives, then you can't be here in America. But he was targeting Muslims.
Yeah. What was the first conflict of the United States after the Revolutionary War? The Barbary Pirates.
Yeah, that what it was.
We had to have forward navy to go take out these Barbary pirates and Muslims that were taking our ships down, stealing our ships. It's been like that from the beginning, and we're here again now.
And why was the Barbary Pirates? Why were the Muslims in control of that? Because they were running the slave trade. A lot of the slave trade was ran by them, especially in the Caribbean areas. And Teddy Roosevelt, man, God rest his soul, is probably one of the main reasons why we have the Federal Reserve. Unfortunately, he was against it, and his friends were against it. John Jacob Astor and Guggenheim and Strauss. They obviously got taken out on the Titanic, and he went and ran against Howard Taft, which was his buddy, his Secretary of Commerce, who went and got elected afterwards. He even campaigned for him. And Howard Taft started becoming progressive Democrat, and he's like, "What are you doing, asshole?" He's like, "Stop." And he's like, Howard Taft's like, "Dude, your time's done." He's like, "Well, I'm going to run again." And Taft wouldn't concede, so he created the Bull Moose Party to run against them. And this is how Woodrow Wilson got elected with only like 32% of the vote because Teddy Roosevelt split the vote between him and Taft.
Oh, my God.
Wow, I didn't know that.
No shit.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, man. I love that early Americana history. Like that whole, I can go frickin', I can tell you the history of our country. It's not what people think it is, man.
Not even close.
The first American flag was a Union Jack where the stars are and then the alternating 13 red and white stripes. But that was the flag of a corporation, the East India Company. And the reason why we had the flag of the East India Company is the East India Company, if anybody never watched this is heroin, Sassoon family, right? Big frickin' money movers and drug movers. This is the same company that took all the tea but also drugged the whole Chinese population during that time. You ever wonder why Alexander Hamilton was 19 years of age during the American Revolution? And that's like Donald Trump having 19-year-old Stephen Miller next to him and being like, he's a great dude. Like, it doesn't make any sense, right? But Alexander Hamilton's uncle, Lord Hamilton in Scotland, was the chairman of the board of the East India Company. And so the East India Company, they didn't like the Bank of England. They didn't like the crown and the powers that the crown had over East India Company's international ventures, of which they were trying to tax everything. Yeah, remember, all this started with the raising of tax on tea by the crown. So the East India Company came and helped to fund the American Revolution through France and proxy. And then in 1792, at the beginning of the United States of America's first treasury, because the Constitution came in 1791, 1792, the Treasury Department started up in 1792, and the first $10 million came from Lord Hamilton in Scotland of the East India Company.
What an amazing rewrite of history in this country. That's another thing that's going to just shock all of us, realize we didn't really even win the Revolutionary War and everything that really went on. Civil War, all of it. I just listened to something today, talked about, look, it wasn't about the slave trade. It was, again, the Southerners were right. It was about economics. It was about money. It was about control. It was about all that. So they have a reason to be pissed off at us Yankees. Not that I was any part of that, but
give me 2 minutes on that topic.
Go ahead.
There's a book out there called The Real Lincoln by Tom DeLorenzo, a historian. Great book. This frames the Civil War the way it was meant to be framed. Number one, most of the country at that time was freeing slaves. It was not.
Except Union states, except Union states. They weren't outlawing them in Union states, but in the Southern states.
Well,
I learned today.
So this is what was happening. The northern states were taking in loans from European banks to buy new technology for farming and to build out the Industrial Revolution, the cotton gin and so forth. So what happened is in Congress, deliberations started happening that the southern states had to go out there and take out the same loans to bring the same technology over. And the southern states said, no, we're not taking out loans from Europe or from any European banks, and you can't just make a hard transition. We still have workers out in the field. You got to give us a time frame, like 5 to 10 years of transition away from that labor force and integrate the technology. And the northern states said, no, you need to do it, and you need to do it now. And that was the prerequisite that led to the Civil War and why it was fought over slavery.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable. I mean, the hidden history that nobody knows, and I should do a whole series on this sometime.
That's good. Good.
Yeah, that'd be a great idea. This thing just keeps banging around in my head, so I got to say this. Have you guys seen the movie Idiocracy?
Oh yeah.
God, yeah.
If you haven't seen the movie Idiocracy, you got to watch it. Luke Wilson, can't think of the black guy's name that was ex-football player. You got to go watch the movie Idiocracy. I saw it probably about 4 or 5 months ago. And it's so ridiculous to be like, that's what this country or world would be if the Democrats remained in control. It's exactly what would happen to this country. It looked like the movie
Joe
Idiocracy.
Biden's America.
Yeah, Joe Biden's America.
Yep. But, gents, I got to get going here. I got another show to get on.
Perfect segue. Yeah, perfect segue. It's always great to have you guys together. I learned so much just hanging out with you guys. And like I said, Josh is my Encyclopedia Brown. Remember that book series, Mike, when we were kids, Encyclopedia Brown? The dude knows everything about everything.
I had that stuff, yeah.
Yeah, the good old days. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us again on a Friday night. This is an impromptu roundtable, and we'll thank Mike's wife, Tracy, Joe, Jaco, Scott. It's about time to start kicking the bushes. We need another roundtable. Okay. Like herding some cats, getting these guys together on their schedules. But so on behalf of myself, Tomahawk, Josh Reid, and Mike Jaco, that is a wrap for tonight. We'll be back again in a couple of weeks, and I'll say thanks, gentlemen, and that's a wrap. Patriot Street Fighter out.
Good night, guys.
Cheers.